Now, I would imagine just from listening to you, Valerie, that one of those hard things would be, because you've spoken about it at the very beginning with regards to meetings, is when that energy drops or if there's a mix of energies. How do you deal with that as a facilitator?
Well, in my agendas, I often don't even put breaks, official break times, and I always tell people that the times are estimates, because sometimes the energy around something, they want to talk about something a lot and spend more time in something, and if somebody's one of those time watchers, it's like, no, it's 10:15, we have to take a break now. So I just remind them at the beginning that, you know, everything's sort of fluid, and if the energy's really low, I do a few things. Sometimes I take a break, get them to move around, get some fresh air. Sometimes I'll put them into small groups, because in a large group, the energy is different than in a small group. People tend to be more comfortable in a small group, more likely to talk in a small group. Sometimes if the energy is really frenetic, I just say, okay, let's just, we'll give everybody a chance and we'll see what happens. So it's knowing how to handle both extremes, when the energy is really low or when the energy is really just ramped up there, knowing what to do in both cases.
What do you think is key when you are facilitating a meeting? That one key piece of advice that you have or that you need to remember for yourself in order to facilitate a successful meeting?
I always have to keep in mind where they are going. Sometimes what they talk about can be really interesting, and I don't want to get caught up in what they're discussing. I have to keep always aware of where they're going, and is the discussion moving towards where they want to come at the end of the meeting. I have to be aware of, should I let them veer off and have that discussion, or do I need to pull them back in and move them towards where they want to be going? So it's always that clarity on those outcomes and me always moving the group towards that. And sometimes I have to ask them questions, make sure that it's going in the right direction, or sometimes they talk around things and they keep talking and talking, and I think they've already made a decision. So I'll say things like, I think we're in violent agreement here. Okay. And they all laugh, and they realize they are in agreement, they're all talking around it, but they've already made the decision, and then I can move them forward.
We've talked about your coaching in previous interviews. What's the difference between coaching and facilitation?
There's a lot of similarities between coaching and facilitation, because so many of the skills are the same. You know, the listening and the planning in advance, asking good questions, being clear on the outcomes, making it safe for people to speak their minds, ensuring that there's some kind of decision or action at the end. So a lot of those skills are the same between coaching and facilitation. I think the easiest difference that comes to mind is the time frame. So coaching is a 3 to 6 month relationship where the leader and I work together on fine-tuning his or her skills. And facilitation, I'm usually hired for 1 session or more than 1 session around a particular outcome. So the focus is very different. The focus in facilitation is moving towards those agreed upon outcomes or objectives. It could be creating a strategic plan. It could be improving team communication. It could be making a decision about where to invest. And coaching is always the same thing. The focus is always on improving that person's leadership skills. Facilitation is done with a group of any size, and coaching, for my practice, is done either one-on-one or with small groups. So facilitation's like that invisible hand that helps the group get important things done and move them forward. I'll give you an example about why facilitation was needed in a particular place with a group. They had to make a decision around 3 options that were put forward to them. So I designed a day where they had to look at the costs and the benefits and the risks and, you know, how did it fit with their portfolio and the skills and lots of different pieces. So I had to bring everybody into the room, and they had to bring information with them so that people could discuss things and weigh the options. So I needed to facilitate this group because we needed a way of showing all the variables and all the things that were discussed and guiding the decisions and guiding the discussion so everybody was heard, and that the business decision was made, and that really needed facilitation, me to step back and worry really about the process and where they were going and what they wanted to achieve.
What do you enjoy most about being a facilitator?
I think as a facilitator, I really bring the best of me when I facilitate. So I bring my experience, I bring that 20 plus years and all the tools and expertise and processes that I've got. I have to be aware of everything that's happening in the room. I have to always be thinking about, is this discussion moving them forward? Is this discussion bringing them where they want to go? I have to be looking at, are people checking out? Are people engaged? So I'm always watching those things. But I think the best part about being a facilitator is nothing ever happens as is planned. There's always something unexpected that happens, and I have to be making a decision at that moment, what's the best for the group? So it's definitely not boring, and I always have to bring the best of me.
Excellent. Well, we are at the end of the show. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I think that people should consider a facilitator. A facilitator would really help people have more effective meetings, use their time more effectively. And if you need a facilitator, they can contact me at ValerieMacLeod.com.
Sounds great. Well, Valerie, always a pleasure having you on the show, so thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Lucy. Great being back.
You've been listening to APMG Radio with my special guest, Valerie MacLeod. This show and many others can be found at allpromediagroup.com. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Lucy, and you've been listening to APMG Radio.